Alright, so I am back out at Pescadero. This is a spot I have painted many times, but I'm going to challenge myself today. I want to try to paint a square format painting. So I'm using a 20 by 20 inch stretch canvas. And also I want to try to do a painting without a horizon. So typically I do include the horizon and a bit of the sky, but today I'm going to try to make it work without doing that. And then also I have not had much success doing landscapes or seascapes with a square format. It's really challenging for me. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. I'm going to try to create an interesting abstract pattern using the rocks, the white water, and then the darker water. And it is kind of windy today, so I've set up my canvas so that it's in line with the wind. That way it won't get blown off of my easel or blow my easel over. Alright, so even though this is a fairly large canvas, I'm going to try to work quickly. So I want to just start with some sort of gestural lines and see how I feel about the shapes. And I feel like this down here, maybe I want it to go like, maybe like that. Actually, this could come out a little bit further. Like that, maybe. There's some rocks in here. This is a lot of dark right here. So if all of this is dark, I think that's going to be too heavy. All right, so I'm just going to wipe this out. And obviously the burnt sienna will do no harm. It'll kind of act as a tone. But I'm not going to move forward until I have a design that I'm happy with. Alright, so I looked through my view catcher, which is just, you know, basically isolates the scene. And originally I was thinking of having the rocks kind of finish up out here, but I'm thinking I might want them over more to the right instead. Something like that. And then down here, I want the white water to come in quite a ways. And I'm just squinting at the rocks and reducing the rocks into simple shapes as usual. And then I might break this area up here with a little bit of white water as well. And now got a little bit of ultramarine on the brush here, getting a little bit more specific with the shapes. These rocks sort of connect here. Okay, and there are a bunch of rocks in the water here too that I want to include. Now, let's see, I'll just darken this to see what it looks like. And I find this kind of painting enjoyable. It's definitely a challenge, especially when the wind is blowing and it's kind of cold. But that encourages me to work quickly and just try to have fun. Alright, now I want to make some lines to separate the light portions of the rock from the dark portions. So the top here is kind of lit up, and there's an area of rock that's lit up right here. This portion is dark. So now I'm going to start putting in the dark areas, and I'm keeping the paint pretty thin and transparent, and then I'll come over with thicker paint. But I do want to have transparency in my scrubbing. Again, just squinting at the scene, trying to reduce it into light and dark. Okay, I'm leaning the mix towards ultramarine blue in this area. And then down here, I want to have more red or more burnt sienna in the mix. It's kind of nice to have these variations in the scrub-in. Okay, I've switched to a bigger brush. This is a number 10. Just so I can cover the canvas faster. I was using a number 6 to sketch out the shapes, but now that I've got the shapes established, I just want to work quickly and cover the canvas as fast as possible. When I work quickly, sometimes spontaneous things happen that that are kind of bits of magic. So I will be stepping back to look to see what I've got, see if it's working. All right, so I like that better. This area in here is going to be darker right here, but not quite as dark as the other areas. Lightening up the mix with some titanium white. Even though it's a little bit lighter, it is still important to have it, to keep it dark enough that it stands out against the water. Because obviously the white water is the lightest light in the painting. This dark shape here is the composition. Then I'm just going to add some random dark strokes in here, not overthinking it. And I think it's time to step back and see if this is working or not. So as I mentioned, I'll step back about 10 feet, 15 feet, and I think that'll work. All right, for the darker portion of the water, I've got sort of mid-tone gray here, and I'm gonna leave areas unpainted where I think the white water should be. Trying to work quickly and spontaneously, again looking for little bits of magic. Hopefully we'll get some. Usually when you work quickly, there is that magic. It happens every time. It's just a matter of slowing down and walking back to make sure you don't paint over it. I just saw a wave come through, maybe some dark there, and then here as well, down in the corner. And this is basically doing an abstract painting here. I'm completely focusing on trying to have an interesting arrangement of shapes. As I mentioned before, this kind of painting used to be very difficult for me. I would rather have something that wasn't moving to paint. But what I found out is that painting a moving target like this really does free you up to focus on shapes. So I've learned so much from painting seascapes, and it really is helpful when I go back to painting something that's more structured, like a cityscape. All right, for the white water, I'm using titanium white, ultramarine blue, and dioxazine purple. And I'm keeping this paint fairly thick, and I'm trying to mimic the motion of the water. One of the nice things about painting on canvas as opposed to a panel is that it's easier to get soft edges, you know, because you've got the texture of the canvas to work with. A lot of times when I'm painting on a panel, I find that really challenging. You know, it's very challenging to get a soft edge. So I'm kind of enjoying this. I don't want to be too bright with this first pass of white water. And that's why I've mixed in the ultramarine blue and the dioxazine purple. And actually I don't mind if I pick up some of the dark from the rocks. And the reason is I want to be able to come on top of this, maybe with some warmer whites. I want there to be a variety in these white portions. Even though it's overcast, there's still some shadows cast. They're just very light shadows or delicate shadows cast by these rocks. And that would be in here. So there won't be a big value shift between the, you know, the white water that's in the light and the white water that's in the shadow. But I still do want to have some of those shadows suggested. I don't want to go too saturated with the blue though, because it is overcast and I want to kind of capture that overcast feel. I'm also really enjoying the larger format here. It allows me to paint with abandon, and like I said, that's when little magical things potentially happen. I tend to be a lot more careful when I'm painting on a smaller support, like, you know, let's say if I were doing this on a 12 by 12, a lot of this random stuff would not happen. All right, I'm running out of liquid. The paint is kind of thick, which is okay, but I do like to scrub in with liquid. It does allow me to apply the paint really quickly. Sometimes when I'm caught up in the moment, I don't want to squeeze out more white paint or refill my liquid container, that sort of thing. All right, as I mentioned, continually walking back, and I just noticed I need some white water over here because there's some waves breaking in this area. All right, there's some water that's in the shadows in these rocks, so I'll fill that in. All right, this little hook shape here is kind of bothering me. I want to break that up a little bit. The rocks do kind of come up like this, and then over here maybe it comes down a little bit. I think that's a little better. And the face of this rock is like that. There's maybe another one here, something like that. All right, once again squinting at the scene and reinforcing some of the darkest darks here. I will be lightening up some of these areas here. There's some warm areas in the shadows that I do want to include, but it is important to kind of establish the darkest darks. I still want to keep some transparency if possible. Also trying to vary the direction of the brush strokes, and I want to keep the pattern that I have here because I do like it, so I'm trying to be careful not to tidy things up too much and eliminate this value pattern that I've got. All right, and this sort of area is a little bit more of a brownish color. And I'm using a number 6 natural bristle flat at this point. All right, experimenting with some of the lighter passages on the rocks now. These rocks out here are very dark. I'm just gonna leave them that way. The rocks do get a little lighter, and there's some warmer bits in the foreground. All right, so this was a straight line, but I'm kind of breaking it up because there are bits of shadow that go out into the rocks on the surface, and I want to include those so it's not just like a straight line. You know, when I'm doing my initial sketch, I'm just generalizing, but then it's fun to add some of the specifics, and then, you know, I'm still careful not to mess up the overall design, always. I'm actually noticing some greener tones in the rocks out here. I do want to leave some of the reddish color that I've already got down, but I do want to include some of that green color. It's a little bit more accurate to what I'm seeing. And let's see. The surface of this rock seems to kind of, it's hard to explain. It's sort of, it goes like this. So I want to capture that if possible. And I'm paying attention to value here again. I don't want to break up the value pattern. So I'm, you know, the green that I'm using is a similar value to the red that's underneath. I don't want to cool down this area here and darken it. Like I said, though, I do want to leave some of the scrub in. You know, some of these random bits. And I've probably been working on this painting for about an hour. I'm not going to do much more. I think I'll just leave it and take it home and see how I feel about it. But being that the shapes are really simple, there's not that much to do. You know, I just want to say what I want to say and then leave it and not overstate things. All right, adding some warm greens here just to get a little variety into the painting. It's nice to have warms and cools playing against each other. All right, so here's the finished painting. Once again, the challenge was to come up with a square composition that I was happy with, and then also to do a painting where I don't paint the horizon. I've only done a few paintings like this where I do not include the horizon, and I can't say that I've been very happy with them. I do like the composition, and the fact that there's no horizon in this doesn't bother me. So I feel like this painting worked out. Again, the approach was to squint at the scene and just try to create an interesting pattern of light and dark, or relationship between the light shapes and the dark shapes. And then once that was established, just look for delicate color shifts and try to be careful not to break up that value pattern. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some more videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's the Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Also, I was recently on my daughter's podcast, Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain, and we had an hour or so discussion about the creative process and living a creative life. And so if that's interesting, check it out. I'll put a link to that. It's on Spotify. I'll put a link to that in the description below as well. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.